오전 시간대가 훨씬 그
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are
Hello.
you?
Tired morning.
Good morning. Okay, Dongyun, are you here?
Hi.
Hi. Dongyun and Singa, let us know if everybody's here
Yeah.
when we can
Possible.
start. Cool, thank you. Shall we give another 5 minutes? I think we don't have enough people here. Enough.
I think we're missing 4 students. 3 students now. Okay.
So we have 3 teams in Unit 2 and 3 teams in Unit 4, right?
We are 4 teams.
You have
No?
4 teams?
Don't you know? We are 4 teams, right?
Yeah, actually we have 4 teams.
Okay, then maybe we can start from Unit 4 and we do alternative.
Yes.
4, 2, 4, 2. 4. Okay, let's start soon. But you can, the tutors can already announce your team who goes first, so they can be ready. And maybe just for other students and tutors haven't seen your work for a while, maybe tutors can give a very brief introduction. Just explain maybe just with like 1 or 2 sentences, that's enough. No need to be a full presentation or something. For unit 2, maybe either Chongyeon or NJ, can you maybe give us like 2 sentences?
Yeah, I can explain about the project for Unit 2. Yeah, students doing a kind of pedestrian network analysis for the site, which is near the Hapjeong and the Mangwon area, which is very crowded and culturally very diverse areas in Seoul, and which is also very old, which not very new development area, is like old town, let's say. And students did a kind of on-site survey at the same time with the computer kind of computing analysis, network analysis, and students focus on the betweenness analysis, which can represent about the realistic foot flow, pedestrian flows in the city, and students try to use the method and then try to use as a tool to make a decision for their design proposals and planning ideas. So it's still under progress, but students has a very nicely done with their research progress and just began to propose their design ideas. So hopefully you guys enjoy the presentations, and if you have any questions about the theory behind about the in terms of accessibility analysis, just ask the tutors and we can explain more detail about that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you maybe give us like 2 words for Unit4?
Yeah. Our Unit 4 is focusing on the machine learning technique. So that is, we searched the images on the social media, such as Flickrs, based on the keyword hashtag. So according to the students' hashtag, they train the machine based on what they looking for, and then we apply it to make some the 3-dimensional the model to create some the new kinds of to figure out some new kinds of the feature of this the style. So hopefully we can see some the interesting the project here. So yeah, that's it.
Great. So let's start from Unit4 and we'll do alternative. We have 4 teams in Unit4, 3 teams in Unit2. Cool. Let's begin. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, Daniel, start first. Are you ready, Daniel?
Yeah, sure, I can go. Okay. Okay, so for this project, I focus on the idea of public squares, and more specifically, it's public squares in Latin Americas, which have sort of colonial architectural style. And in order to pull images from Flickr and sort of get a user's point of view, I focus on these 5 squares. And one of the reasons why that I focus on these 5 squares, they're spread out throughout Latin America and they have unique features, but they also have very specific architectural colonial style. So the concept behind it was to maybe pull some images that would represent kind of those plazas, and connecting it to the social aspect is one of the places that people, either like tourists or locals, usually tend to go to. So it'd be interesting to see what their perspective of these images is. So as far as the Flickr part, the data mining, I tried these different tags here. What ended up happening is that by trying each of these tags, if I focus from more general tags, like for example, public square plaza, it would generate a lot of images. However, I would also have to go back and filter out images that I didn't want, for example, images that not necessarily match the architectural elements. So that was kind of the process of that. But then when I would focus on more specific tags that relate more to architectural elements, it seems that people don't necessarily tag those in Flickr. Maybe it's perhaps because they want to put their images out into the world. They want more people to see them. So if you become really specific on the tag, then not many people will see them. So that was an interesting insight from this. And you can also kind of see some of the perspectives and shots that people take, and the way that they focus the camera to capture certain qualities of the plaza. And then for that, I tried a time period of 120 days to 12 years back, and different radiuses from the center of the plaza. The best one, the most amount of images that I can get was 20 images. 20 miles delivered the most amount of images. So after gathering all these images, I had a total of 2,500. And then after the filtering, I ended up with 1,400 images that I used to train the style GAN. And these are examples of some of the images that were fed into the network after carefully selecting some of the images. For example, I have facades, details, more specific elements like that occur only in certain areas like these balconies here, and then some other interior elements that are highly ornate and related to that colonial style. And then as the training process develops with the neural net, these are some of the fake images that the neural network is generating based on what I fed. So you can kind of see that it's beginning to develop certain features related either to like ornament or colors, and more specifically, kind of like the overall facades that enclose plazas. And sorry. And finally, after training the neural net for several epochs, I was able to use a data set given to us of Manhattan, specifically a building in New York City. And you can see kind of like the image on the right is the original image, and as it becomes projected onto the neural net, it creates these new images based on what it has learned. There was some successful, I guess they're not as successful, but these are kind of interpretations of what the network is kind of seeing and reinterpreting the original image to. And you can see that from here. One interesting aspect of this is that since a lot of the images from the plazas don't really have cars, you can see, for example, here that it actually takes out the car when it projects a new image. So that was kind of curious because that's kind of like, I guess, relates to one of the features of the plazas and one of the things that I was looking to see whether it sort of can generalize those features and be applicable to this process. And you can see some of the images here of what is generated. One thing to note is too that based on, I don't know if it's like a small data set that I had, but depending also on the perspective view, it also distorts the image a lot. It doesn't really necessarily follow the perspective, and that could be based on either the amount of images that I had in the original training data set, or just because the network hasn't been trained enough hours to sort of distinguish that. And then I'll just show a quick few videos. Okay.
I think it should be MP4 to be able to play.
It was playing just before.
Oh,
Like I tested it out before the presentation. I don't know why it's not playing now. It was just playing
maybe
before.
for now, just download it and play.
Um,
Do you have it?
yeah, let me see if I can pull it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is kind of like steps of the images generated through the original target image on the left side. And you can see some of the features that it's creating based on the images that it's learned from. There's some interesting things happening. It generates the ground floor pretty decent, which I guess it relates to the way the perspectives were, the people were taking images on the ground floor. So it kind of matches and is able to generate those features better. And then you have kind of weird conditions like this where it just build something else like completely different or distorts it completely. So this is one data set. I'll show the other one. This is another one. This was an earlier one in the epoch, so there's some details that are starting to develop, but as you can see, there's some other ones that don't really match up to anything, but it does generate some pretty distorted images with interesting features that match more or less to what it learned. So like, for example, in this one, you can see that the car gets completely removed and it just creates like a different sort of ground level facade, which was pretty interesting. And I'll show one more. And this one is based on the sort of underlying latent space that the network kind of generates those fake images from. And what we did was take those fake images generated from the network that the network has learned. So these aren't real images. It's just kind of based on what the whole training data set. And then we were able to sort of project the depth map from that in order to generate a point cloud that has a 2.5 dimensionality. So you can kind of see, this would be like the next step to be able to develop these three-dimensional objects from those generated images. So you can see like some of the details get picked up, but it's still not, since the network is not completely trained in a way that generates a lot of specific details and maybe like shadows, it doesn't really pick up a lot of depth, but there's some things that sort of does pick up, which, for example, the bottom part seems to be popping out a little bit more than the top. So that's probably one of the reasons that most of the images that were taken by people are usually situated or facing towards like the ground floor level. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, this one actually worked. So this one was actually a video, just real quick. This was actually a video that I took of a house near where I live, and I just wanted to test it out in a different scenario than a close-up building in Manhattan to see what the network would sort of produce from this projection. So it does create some things, but what it does, it sort of just creates kind of like buildings in the background from like a plaza. Or from like some of the images that it learned from. So you can see like this is like a continuous video, but it doesn't generate continuous images. It always sort of changes them in some way as it moves through.
That's quite interesting.
So there's like features that do develop though, which like the arches are starting to come in, and like a lot of these windows are sort of being developed. But it does generate like sort of like a continuous facade, which I guess relates to like sort of the enclosure of like a plaza in a way. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
That's really interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think all the experiments are great, but actually your last video explains quite a lot of the concept.
Mhm.
You are learning from what is the main kind of key feature of like what makes a public square, and you tested it in a kind of maybe accidentally in a very vernacular landscapey kind of empty space and turned it into a very urban public square.
Mhm.
Really obviously saw the differences, and it kind of makes sense, like what features are normally in those public spaces in those Western cities. Yeah, I think that's quite interesting. Let's see if any of our tutors have any comments, or if students, if you have questions. It's probably not very straightforward to understand in first glance. So what they were doing is to gather information from a lot of images. Either they take from Flickr or they take from their own video, and transferring a certain space, for example, either their own like neighborhood or a certain neighborhood tutors prepared already in New York and LA. They're trying to restyle it with this newly trained images, and everybody was picking different topics of which styles they want to train. And for Daniel's case, he was choosing the feature for public spaces, public square. And I believe you were kind of gathering images of the building facade that are next to those public spaces, because they are the space makers of these public spaces, from my understanding, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, also, Daniel, could you explain more about your goal or aim of this process? What you are doing?
Well, my original intent, since I didn't know how to use like the network, right? I didn't know beforehand what the outcome was going to be. I just wanted to feed something very specific related to public space, just to have that social component and understand, to see if it would sort of pick certain features that make it up, or what is something that all these people that are posting images on Flickr related to public spaces, depending on their perspective, would sort of there's some similarities between all these images, and how that would project to like something that it hasn't seen before. So that was kind of my aspect. I didn't know exactly what it was going to do at the end, but I think as far as like the last video that I showed with like the house and the lawn, you can kind of see how it did pick up things that I didn't expect. For example, like the facade enclosure of like a public space, and it completely changed things that are kind of like trees and stuff like that, and it changed them completely into like a facade. It added like the landscape and element, but it kept the sort of facade wall that encloses a public space, which I thought that was interesting. The other part that I also found interesting was the sort of car thing, since a lot of these images don't have cars in them, and you can see in like the previous image that I showed that the car actually gets removed from the image. Like the network doesn't recognize it as like a car. Like it doesn't keep the car, it just completely redoes it and adds like a facade on top of that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So depending on the type of images that you feed to the network and whatever features are in those images, it's sort of, it could only use what it like learned, I guess. That's what I'm kind of saying.
Well, yeah, and considering you only have one day to finish this, what would you say it's maybe your last slides?
So the last thing now that I would plan on doing, I want to do the depth map part of it, or pretty much gather like a 3D point cloud to see whether it's generating some sort of depth that it can be recognizable, or generates like some space that can be inhabitable. So that's my that would be my next focus.
Yeah, I agree. I think your last video was very clear, and I just hope you just really push that to create 3D models with all this method that you were taught, like either point cloud or like depth map. Yeah, some kind of like the video I really appreciate, but also like really push it further to really see if you can use this method to create actual 3D spaces.
Right.
Maybe it will be a good exercise just for considering that you only have one more day to go.
Yeah, at this point, that's kind of what I'm gonna focus on next.
Yeah, I just wondering about so you exercise with two different locations. One is Manhattan and one is your town, right? So, but the subject is same, like public space photos. Is it correct?
Yeah. So I guess the original sort of intent is to take like images from public spaces and train the network based on those images, and then feed it like images that it's never seen before, and see based on those original training images to see what it would create out of that based on, I guess, what it's learned and reinterpret it in some other way. So that's process. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you recognize like how those two cities are different throughout this kind of exercises? Because you use a lot of photos anyway. Like, of course, it really depends on what kind of photos you just use for your training. But can you kind of differentiate like this city is different from that town? Like, even though you deal with the same kind of public space issues, so. After all these exercises, did you get kind of like a general idea in terms of city characteristics or like city atmosphere? Did you get kind of like sense about that, or how do you use this kind of analysis? Maybe of course it sounds like you will develop like three-dimensional model after that based on this training analysis, but at the same time, did you can get kind of like sense about, even though the result will be three-dimensional model, but maybe Manhattan type will be different from your town type, right? So, but how those could be different, or how do you see like after training process?
How can they be different? The only, so I'm not sure how to answer the question, but the only thing that I can sort of say is that if you see some of these images that I have up right now, you can see kind of more. These are like supposed to be the fake images that the network generates based on what it's learned. So these aren't projected onto another image. These are just what the network generates, and you can kind of see some of the things that it's doing, where it's like it's generating kind of buildings in the background, and then it has like foreground or like some sort of space, and then it generates some sort of like figures also in the foreground, which I guess relates to people, because that's kind of what most of the training images would have in them, as people take them from like from their perspective as they're taking pictures of this like space. So I'm not sure how, I couldn't tell you like how you can spot the difference. I can only tell you like there's some similarities, like the foreground like space, and then like the back wall of the buildings that you can kind of see. So that's at this point, that's my understanding.
I think Jung-hyun picked a very interesting point. I think if Daniel say or comment what kind of quality of public spaces you thought is from your new images, trained images, could be nice, you know. So maybe you told us before some skills having some specific decoration or some ornament referring to public space more in that area. So that part of the element, how change it with a Manhattan building, it could be interesting when you are saying that. So in a way, but I understand the Daniel says because he trained 1,500 images so far. So it's difficult to say everything in a short time, I think. So so I think that could be one of the kind of judgment of your project later on. So I think for tomorrow, you better to prepare what kind of public space quality you've got from the training of your neural networks. That could be the one of the key points for the proposal, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree that considering the short amount of time, like the point of this exercise is to maybe a lot of like observation from us to see, oh wow, what this computer is actually giving us and what computer thinks is a feature of public space. But actually maybe you can also kind of maybe at least as a conclusive wording, maybe you can kind of analyze and evaluate whether these features are actually what you think is a good thing or like relevant thing that you want to extract, or computer actually propose something very stupid, for example. Maybe actively analyze things. This is working, but this was not working.
Mm-hmm.
Took this area. I think this was very successful. This was not very successful.
Yeah. Although we follow the computer, we decide finally, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. Computer really provide a lot of options, right? The alternatives. So, but like what I can see here is that at least like even though maybe this is very short time project, so maybe you have a limited time to collect lots of good quality of pictures, but I think like as one of your results, like you can kind of generalize like, okay, after all these kind of trained pictures about the like public space, and then you can generalize like, okay, these training pictures, the computer result this kind of like spatial characteristics as a result, if maybe this kind of result cannot really represent the really realistic public space maybe in our life, but like this computer kind of interpretate these public space pictures as it is like this, right? Even though it doesn't look like public space for us, maybe, but after one of the results could look like this. So maybe you can kind of mention about your thoughts, like you can make your own conclusion. Like even though we trained the Manhattan kind of city, but your town city about the public space photos, but our result is there is no clear differentiation, but the 3D model kind of showing us like this kind of shape and this kind of space and this depth of, I don't know, the shadow, or I don't know. I think you can like make conclusion anyway based on your analysis. So I just want to listen about what your experience, like it doesn't need to be like perfectly kind of correct answer, or shouldn't be like realistic answer, but at least I just wonder about what is your experience and what is your result, your own result, after all this exercise. So.
Also, interesting he's here for me. Actually, all Flickr images from social media have imply or indicate people's perception of the spaces, public spaces. So all visitors or people uploading the photos, they have a certain point of view all the time uploading, indicating what public space is. So the public space here is kind of converting from real New York's facade with some perceptual public space from the people. So this is kind of new types of public spaces, kind of images we can get it. So it's quite interesting to look at and understand what kind of people's perception will kind of the reflect on the project. Yeah.
To one, I was gonna say like one thing is that if you the video that I showed of New York is a very close-up video of the facade, so it doesn't really generate like, for example, this type of image where you have the foreground in a meaningful way that it kind of begins to, you can kind of see more or less that that's more like a public plaza. Whereas the video that I had of that house, it had a little bit more of a distant perspective and more foreground. It actually did generate kind of like the back wall, kind of more similar to this image, or like the back wall of some sort of building, and then it kept the foreground, and then it was starting to add elements like in between, which I think that's kind of more representative of the idea of like the public space or what people were capturing through their uploaded photos.
Right.
I have a general question. Can I start?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your exercise and researches. It's really interesting to me. But I really wanted to ask you, like, what is your expectation out of this, exercise? Like, do you want to create a sort of AI things to generate the texture for building, or do you want to make some like point cloud generated mesh things out of this result? I think that this is a very important question, I guess, because sometimes many people just use the the existing network to show something interesting. I think which is also good, but I guess set up the question is a way important to before playing with the network, I guess, because for example, like the generic use of GAN is, there's a lot of examples. We can train people's face, right? Or like some, for example, like a training people's face, yeah? So in this case, we have a very clear sort of aim, to use the style GAN. So we wanted to generate the people's face, like out of some online or little things. But at that time, at least they use exactly very high quality of the trained image. For example, they have very particular the let's say layout or scale of people's face. But in your trained image, I can see a lot of different perspective, different scale, and I think maybe the trained image, while training network, the training gonna be a little bit confused because the trained individual image has a different scale and perspective and things like that. So I think if you have a very clear goal to train the image, let's say we can get more like a clear things. I mean, there's two things, I guess, to understand the final image. One thing is like we wanted to, generate some abstract level or like some interesting, painting things out of the network. On the other hand, you can also try to create some architectural question or generating some architectural level of details model, for example. I think this is quite important things before we take a look at the GAN. And also, in order to, address my things to you is, for example, like if you have the image like this, if I were you, I can, let's say regenerate or like edit, modify the image to make a more correct trained image. So for example, like you can also use some of like semantic segmentation rather than training image itself. We can also train very particular like a text, such as like this is public space, this is a window, this is a wall, this is like a ornament on the wall, things like that. So we can actually let's say generating more clear training image to take advantage of GAN. Yeah, so I guess there's many ways to use the style GAN, but I guess let me summarize. Like I want to ask you, like, what is your goal, initial goal? What do you want to expect out of this exercise?
Yeah, no, I think my initial goal was the idea of being able to generate like space from it, or like a 3D point cloud, to see if there's something that from these, I guess from its images, you can sort of generate some sort of 3D point cloud representing some sort of space. Like that was kind of my intent. Obviously, like I haven't used StyleGAN before, so I didn't know like what the outcome would be like. I didn't know exactly that you might have to like maybe massage the images more specifically in order to arrive at that result. So yeah, so for me right now, it's like kind of an experiment, but I really wanted to see if it could generate like a 3D space using like a point cloud, or maybe like then it could be meshed or something.
I see, but
sorry, I think maybe we should wrap up, but I think this a lot of questions are still R4 actually the entire unit agenda. And I'm sure this will occur to the rest of the 3 teams. So we can, actually this question can be answered by all of our students.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so let's move on and we can continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. And from Unit 2, we're gonna start from Team A. Are you ready?
Yes. Hello, we are Team A in Unit 2. Our topic is how to keep social connections during the social distancing. Recently, many events and festivals are canceled due to COVID-19 pandemics, and it affects our local economies. Also, according to research, 47.5% of Koreans got depression and anxiety because the disease lasts much longer than our expectation. In this situation, there are some movement to promote social interaction as an alternative for this problem. So our research question is how to keep social connections during the social distancing to overcome Korea's corona flu. Our site is located in mountain area, including Hapjeong Station, Mapogu Office Station, and Mawon Station, and Mawon Hunger Park. This area is well known for Mangnidangil and Mawon Market. To understand the site's characteristics, we analyze our site as many as possible. This concept of centrality explains the hierarchy of the nodes or edges within the network. The concept of accessibility explains the both activity patterns in space and the connection between the activities. It consists of reach and gravity and a Hopf model. To figure out the demographics in this area, we also analyze the number of households and residents of different age groups using open government data. Our main index is betweenness to measure the centrality. The betweenness index is the total number of the shortest paths at the target location divided by the total number of the shortest paths that exist between the 2 nodes of the given radius. We build the several betweenness models using NNA toolbox. To validate the correlation between the real data and betweenness index betweenness model, we conduct the on-site survey in the last Sunday. We counted the pedestrians and bicycles for 15 minutes on each 46 spots. The counting time is from the 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the weekend. The spots are decided based on the upper and lower 10% of the betweenness value. After the survey, we compile the data and analyze the correlation between the betweenness value and real data using the Spearman's rank tool. Our square value was over the 70%, and it means it's reliable to use as the prediction model. And then we got a linear regression model to estimate the pedestrian and bicycle flow. This is the result of our estimation. We found that they are quite different from the real data. Especially, the results showed that there are low flow in the Mangnidangil and Mawon Market. It is very hopeless in this area. This is because we excluded some outliers which contains local characteristics. Is same as vehicle flow. We analyze the
the outliers we excluded, it shows that we need to consider the additional information about the local characteristics to develop the realist betweenness model. We collect an image about the pedestrian flow information at government website. In the central image here, the lines consist of 5 colored lines. Red lines means the high pedestrian flows, and blue lines means low pedestrian flow. In Grasshopper, we identify the RGB value of the image and convert it into pedestrian flow index, and consider them as a weight value for the betweenness model. This is the after apply rate model. To make the catalog of the street typology in our site, we selected the several streets based on the place we conducted on-site survey. We analyzed the streets based on the several characteristics such as the number of interactions, and load width, and pedestrian passage, and the number of floors, and so on. We categorize the street by the number of ways and road width. And we designed the street typology to keep the social distancing 6 feet rule. And there we use the we change the pavement, or we build additional structures, or we also redesign the space. This is our catalog of street typology. To propose a specific guidelines, we selected 3 streets for a specific design based on our outliers, where pedestrian flow is much lower than compared to network relationship. Here is the 3 spots. These are our design suggestions. A street is the 1A and 20 width, or road width, and the program is a retail. We changed some road pavement, and in the B street is the 3-way street, and the road width is 0 to 5 meters. The program is residence. Also, we at the wall we change some pavement and build the benches to make the social interactions. At the C street, it is the 4 ways, and the road width is 5 to 10 meters. Also, we designed the space to social distancing and social interaction. Also, our proposal can attract people on frequented streets. It would make the Mangon place and avoid the overpopulation on specific streets, such as Mangnitangil and Mangon Market. It keeps both of social distancing and interaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask, just maybe you can recap what is the main goal? Of, yeah, so before and after.
Our main goal is here, how to keep the social connections and during the social distancing in this area. But we found that there are overpopulation in this area, particularly in this Mangnitangil and Mangon Market. So we designed a specific area to disperse the people to avoid the overpopulation. More specific, we designed the alternatives. This is based on this proposal is based on the social distancing, and and social interaction program.
Yeah, maybe I just briefly explain about the project, maybe like, yeah, as I understand, students did a lot of work to do, so maybe it's hard to explain everything in 10 minutes maybe. But like in general, idea is that based on the betweenness analysis, which is about the reflect the realistic the pedestrian flows in the city. So can you just go back to the slide just before this? The ranking analysis pages, maybe. Yeah, here, right here. Yeah, as you can see here, actually students do the like on-site survey and at the same time computing the analysis about the actual pedestrian flow, the density. So which is called about the betweenness analysis. So here students marking out that the orange color means that the higher the pedestrian flow on site, and blue means that the computing kind of result is a higher computing result, saying that higher pedestrian flows in those areas. So actually their kind of design site is this, the red colored area which they focus on. So actually, even though while we are doing the computing analysis, those areas are relatively not very high pedestrian flows, but in reality, there was a lot of kind of pedestrian flows here. So so what we are doing is that students do the like before and after analysis. So their stage is kind of in between. Students done a lot of like analysis based on the kind of just the computing analysis and also on-site analysis. So what they are doing now is that they are doing some kind of like interpretation, depends on the different type of street. For example, different width or different kind of different number of connections. For example, like two-way street or like four kind of way streets like this. So students develop on the kind of this kind of different type of catalogs for those areas, and then start to do kind of design intervention. And then after that, once they complete it, students will do the another network analysis, and then students will compare between the intervention and then after the intervention. So as I understand, they are kind of under the progress. So they are just began to do kind of some design intervention for their selected site and develop their design ideas. And next step will be based on their design intervention. They will do the network analysis again, and then they will compare. So hopefully my explanation helps you. And yeah, if you have any questions, just bring up here. Yeah,
right. Thank you for the explanation. And I'm just question about the student. What is the relationship between the flows and betweenness? I'm just wondering, because I don't understand well. So I'm just questioning about high density of a flow. What is the relationship between flows and betweenness?
Yeah. Betweenness means the it means the yeah. There it's kind of possibility of the how this target location have a lot of short path through this target location. So if the between is high, it means there is high possibility to people go through this path. So it have a correlation with the flow.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So I think the between this means a lot of the overlapping the shortest passes between the two nodes, right?
Yeah.
And but I think even though there are like the pathway between two nodes, I think there are some other factors to determine the path where people want to use. Yeah. So I think if you consider like this factor, this project gonna be more interesting. And the interesting point in your project is the comparison between the digital one and the in-person survey. So I think yeah, the thing you find like the outlier is quite interesting, and then I you might be able to find some the things what features make the data differently in the digital and the in-person survey. I think you could probably find some the reason to figure out what the other factors have an impact on when they figuring out the the pathway where people want to go or not. Yeah. And I think yeah, the series is quite interesting for me.
Yes, maybe I have a very different topic. But I think your presentation was really good. Sorry, I don't get exactly like every single element of your research, but I think it's produced very well with all those diagrams and everything, and very clear. Just need to be a little bit down to the terms that everybody can generally understand instead of being very technical. And I think just treat us as somebody really doesn't know anything, you know? And I'm really curious about how your on-site survey was going. And I would really love to see some videos and photos of you counting people. Maybe like even just like 10 seconds to 30 seconds of how at one sample node, for example, like sample node of 24, I was standing there for this minute and I was counting this, but very visually with video and with your photo because you were there. It's a shame that you don't show any photos of yourself because I think that is a very good content out of this workshop as well from our point of view, because we actually went to the site and did site survey in coronavirus period, you know, like it's something, it's really valuable. So I do suggest you to include that. And I think there are lots of terms and diagrams. They're great. Maybe just help us a little bit, maybe as a conclusive, more diagrammatic or more visual idea how this X area change, you know, like can be very conceptual, can be just using some colors or something, just more visually help us understand how you turned this area to something different, and what was that goal, and that if you achieved that. But I think you are saying that in your last slide, because I see some points became more bright colors, warmer colors, but to be honest, like I don't really get what that means. Does it mean that there will be more
So actually, there is a legend. So I asked my students to put all the legend next to the visualization. But in the legend, there's a number and all the statistical simple meaning things. So I think with the legend, we have a better chance, better sense to understand the diagram, by the way.
Yeah, and also like you have to indicate which one is origin and which one is destination. So, and also I'm pretty sure that we just went through all our kind of meeting in Korean. So I think maybe for today, I understand what you really want to say for each pages, but I think you need to kind of practice how to deliver your thoughts in English much sharper and better. So I think after this meeting, we can help out. And also, yeah, in terms of the technical term, you have to briefly explain it in English as well. So I think, yeah, we can make kind of clear pinpoint for each pages, and then we can develop it for tomorrow's final presentation. So it'll be, yeah, helpful for you for next step.
Cool. What I think what's gonna be really helpful, at least for me, is maybe you zoom in to like one corner.
Yeah, I agree.
The
Right.
bird eye perspective, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
before, after.
Right. And particularly for your research area, you just showing us like whole site, but of course we understand this, but maybe next page you just zoom in and you really detailedly explain about your site, like how changes like before and after. And of course it's kind of like mild change maybe, but there is changes. So you have to explain what is exactly meaning, you know, particularly for your site. So yeah, I think that's really good. Yeah, critique to develop further, to make clear for your project. Yeah.
Yeah, you have only one day, so maybe it's just about how to more visually express your to other people and let people understand what is the whole meaning of this. I'm sure there are lots of ideas and proofs, and I can see from a lot of diagrams, and I hope they are proving for something that we can actually, wow, yeah, this is actually, yeah. Cool. Shall we move on?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We also have a lot of teams. Yeah. Yeah, let's speed up for the rest of the teams. So Uni4 second team, please.
Yeah, I think Carlos, are you ready now?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. So I will be presenting on we are doing parallel work. I'm doing one side of the objectives of this unit, and he's doing the other half. The title that we have sorry, the title that we are using for the moment is Polyvalent Settlements and Communal Expression. And I'll explain you why that title and what we have been doing. So first, we have two sides of this experiment. One is called cycle gun and one is called style gun. So on cycle gun, we have a more direct objective of trying to understand how this type of AI works, and on the other, it's a bit more speculative. It's called style gun. On the cycle gun, we are trying to project New York style facades that were provided to us by the tutors onto an international style facade from Dubai. This is because the international style building is a really clean slate on which to manifest stylistic averages from New York. This is showing you the Dubai facade on the first image, and the second image is one of the several New York facades or images from New York that we used. You can see a little bit of the statistics on the right, sorry, on the left. About a day and a half of training for the following results. The way this works is mixing the images from the building with the images of New York on one direction and also parallel on the opposite direction. So you can see here how the AI is producing this intersection of styles. And here you can see how it's evolving. At the beginning, you see the clean image of the international style building in Dubai, and then how the machine starts to interpret the New York style onto the Dubai building. Obviously, as time progresses, with each iteration, it becomes a lot more defined, a lot crisper. It also has some troubles, for example, identifying what to do with certain elements that seem completely out of place. For instance, you can see on Epoch 30 that it doesn't know what to do with the tree. And then by Epoch 117, it begins to recognize that it should be a more finite element. So this is the further progress. And here you can see how the training begins colonizing from the ground floor upwards. And it adequately matches windows from the New York set to where the windows are in the Dubai set, plus some ornamentation in between the windows. Also, I mean, there's some noise regarding the background, but that also begins to dwindle with each epoch. And here is the other side, another example with using another base image. In this case, it's going in the opposite direction. The original is the New York building, and it will try to populate or transform this New York building into the Dubai International Style example. Because there was a tree and some vegetation in the Dubai example, it begins to reproduce that on the ground floor. And those smaller details, it's what it's trying to relate to smaller details such as the stairs or the emergency stairs from New York. And then here, the relief that it finds, it's replacing it with the more regular example from Dubai. And it generates also this more or less unexpected results, kind of like a angular or zigzag profile. But nevertheless, it seems that it's vanishing. Okay. And here's a little clip from one of the results, trying to convert it into a point cloud. Let me try and play it. Well, it's apparently it's a still, but
It won't play
this is
in the browser. Do you have the video?
Yeah. Maybe at the end, sorry. So on the other side of the other exercise is called style gun. This is a little bit more speculative. On this side, we have to take several images from Flickr using special hashtags with an intention. In this case, is exploring the concept of polyvalent spaces for to try to see how a building of such characteristics can be conceptualized using AI. So for this, we search for images of open, clear spaces, abandoned spaces, decaying spaces, and perhaps as ornamentation or as contrasting elements. Things like graffiti that talk about the communal expression or the expression of the people that get to inhabit or transit these areas. So here's a more explicit description of the keywords and some of the results that we got from that. Some statistics from those keywords. And as you can see, we got a really high amount of pictures, but in reality, we're only using around 3,000 images because of time constraints, and also because even if you use these keywords, you will get a lot of images that aren't really related to what you're looking for. More examples on those results. And at the moment, the training is ongoing. This is more or less of an average of what the machine understands that this style is going to be. So this is called Style Gun Reels, and it's an image that it produces at the beginning to guide you and tell you what it will be trying to understand as a style. So what we will try to do in this last day is to get some results from the style gun and mix it with some of these results and get a merge between the New York style, the abandoned spaces style, and all of them projected onto a Dubai International style building.
Thank you. Was that?
Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
it's so. Yeah, I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your exercise and researches, which is very interesting to me. Can you go to the first exercise? I think the result is pretty predictable, I guess. In this case, actually, we don't need to train the network, I guess, because it has a very straightforward. So the question I have right now is, could you show me what is the train image?
In this one, it's both. There is one set of images.
Yeah, can I have?
Yeah, it's. Let me see if I can show it to you. Okay.
Yeah, because as a first presenter and you, I guess pretty much about it, the GAN, the network has a very particular, the system. So as long as you don't want to tweak the network itself, what the network does is going to be exactly the same. And then in this context, what we need to do is to focusing on how we generate the train image, So that's why I'm asking, what is our goal? And then based on the goal, how to prepare the train image, scale-wise or detail-wise, I think that one is pretty important things to take advantage of the GAN network fully, I guess. Because I guess just downloading some random images from the social network or whatever things, and then training the network, and then whatever overfitting or underfitting, and then it's gonna give us some interesting result, right? I think that this is the, let's say one step, yeah? The second step is that we need to focusing on the how we generate, how we, modify the trained image. I think that one is way important, I guess. So is this your trained image?
Yeah, this is for the.
They look same, huh?
yeah. Look, what happens is that there are two styles of training. One is called cycle GAN, and the other is style GAN. So
Okay.
on cycle GAN, what we're doing is that we take.
Sure.
We took a short video from a building to showcase most of what we could from that building.
Sure,
so
yeah.
what you're seeing here are stills from that building. Sorry, from that video. So obviously, most of them look fairly similar.
Yeah.
And then we have another set that is not from this building, but rather from various New York buildings. And that was provided to us by the tutors.
Okay.
So this is cycle GAN, and it's going in both directions, trying to convert this Dubai building into what the computer reasons is the New York style, averaging or exploring the images from New York, and also the other way around, trying to convert a New York base into these images, into what it finds as an average or something remarkable.
Sure.
From these images. So this is cycle GAN. And on style GAN, which is the one that uses Flickr, that's where we use the keywords. Let me try and find those. This is the result of the Flickr search, and it's a lot more heterogeneous, but still somewhat trying to follow a certain objective. In this case, open spaces that have been abandoned, but perhaps not too ruined. So that's why the terms were warehouses or urban exploration, I love decay, certain hashtags that people on Flickr tend to use because they like exploring this type of images, this type of atmospheres. So from this style of training, we would try to merge that with the other.
Carlos, thank you for explaining. And can I actually give you some suggestion?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know Carlos was very grateful to explain his teammates' part as well, because it's 4 o'clock in Dubai. That's why there are two very distinct exercises that we're doing. And it was not very clear, like, what's the distinction, but they are actually developed very differently. But one is just using really clean Dubai neighborhood and using that to kind of testing how this will work together with training with Manhattan set. And Carlos, you have been going through a lot of different hashtagging exercises to kind of find a way to sort the most relevant images. Otherwise, you are manually deleting a lot of them, isn't it? So I think this is, I don't want to use the short period as an excuse, but I think it needs to be also clarified what is the aim of this exercise. Actually, for me, if you really just distinct these two different exercises separately, so you can just do two different separated presentation.
Okay.
Really goes through what was the learning curve, like what did you really learn through trying this? I think that's already very meaningful, because for me, this is a very difficult tool. It's not like some very simple tools that you can just change some parameters and you can use it. It's like, you need to go through a lot of things, sorting the data sets, downloading them, learning what hashtag actually gives you. And you went all of these different kind of difficulties, and just go through those difficulties and findings as you are explaining in the table review. And I think that is really, really meaningful. And considering you only have one more day, just separate these two presentations completely.
Okay.
Just try to, in your case, you want to just really finish the training. So just keep on going with the training with the decaying imageries. And in Albert's case, just really try to use these images to create 3D model. And I think when he was explaining, I was learning this, and when he was putting epoch 30, epoch 11, 17, like I can see that you did pick of very specific aesthetic reason. Like, like sometimes epoch 30 works much better and it's more interesting. But sometimes epoch 117 works in this case, maybe that one is more interesting. It covers entirely with like greeneries and stuff. I think you guys have a good eyes to know and understand what is more like valuable outcome, and tell us how you use it to create 3D models. I think that is already a very important and interesting exercise that you can use up this 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, I think I quite agree with NJ's comment. So in a way, if you can't really do more training, I think you guys have to explain or argue that what is your point of picking the fine images, right? So you got so many different exercises like using different effort, etc., right? So you have to decide what kind of quality you decided to make a 3D model because of a reason. I think that's quite important to deliver you guys all kind of learning and studying and kind of analysis those process. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also one of the big thing that we always ignore about training is actually the preparation of data sets, because that is tremendous amount of work. And I really appreciate, Carlos, when you are like going through different hashtags to find what people are tagging and finding at the end, like you are using something like I love DK or something like that, right? As a
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really like smart finding that you found a keyword that actually can help you to find more relevant data sets. You know, like it is a great finding, and I think you really definitely need to explain that aspect.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Because data sets are like most of the time we think it's given, but it's not, isn't it? And that is actually what you explored during this workshop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you struggled, and you really want to explain why did you struggle, and how did you go about that problem. That's already very meaningful.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, let's move on to Team C of Unit 2. They are developing their hypothesis based on a comparison of Mangwon market and also street market of Egypt.
Can you guys hear me?
Shall we go?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can hear you.
So yeah, we wanted really to discuss the new urban changes that has risen with the rise of the pandemic of COVID-19, and how challenging was it for the urban planners and for the current situation of the cities, and how we could cope up with that. And it made us think, how can our cities cope up with the pandemic, or what adjustment is possible in both cities and cities to keep up and to resist this pandemic. And when the guys went for the survey, society surveying and lying down, and they used the pedestrian manual counting at 46 street segment. Okay, we wanted this is some specs, some photos they took on the street. We can from their side surveying, we concluded that the most dense part about the city was the market, which had a lot of pedestrian flows, and thus it wasn't the really safest sport for people to go, and how we were thinking how we could regulate and change this form of this part of the city so it can keep up with the pandemic, as well as how can this adjustment change the flow of the pedestrians from different destinations. So we developed the hypothesis from conducting a different analysis and network analysis, so starting from the residential houses to the market, and from the metro, and from the parks. And we use different analysis to access the flow of the people and the density on the streets to come up with different scenarios we can test, and we can apply our hypothesis that how can we change these roads into 3 different roads to keep the social distance and the safety regulations. So we wanted to divide the routes around the market into 3 different routes: restricted routes and semi-restricted, and 1 for free routes. And we decided to go on and see what factors could affect the flow of the people from different destinations to the market, like the distance and the sidewalks, the weight of the destinations itself, and the density on route hierarchy. And decided to develop some research question on how each factor can change, by changing each factor, how can it change the flow of the people to the destination. So we started up by doing the analysis from the origins, which were the residential houses, and see which routes surrounding the market had the highest density and highest pedestrian flow, and how we can change these parts. And we use different analysis to conduct the weight of each route, the weights and how the weight of the affect this route will do if we change its factor and its function. And here is some of the gravity analysis, which use the attractiveness of the attractiveness in the space to attract the people to the destination. And the degree analysis, which measures the total number of connecting edges to the destinations. And from the first analysis we conducted, the main route, which was in red, has the highest destinations and pedestrian flow, starting from the points from people who are coming to the market from their homes. And the second goes by the yellow one, and the blue one has the lowest weight. And the same goes on with the metro analysis, people who are coming from the metro to the retails, and which point had the highest flow and highest attractiveness based on the different analysis, from the closeness and to the gravity analysis and degree analysis as well. And we conducted both the main route on red was actually the main road that people would take and be the entrance for the people for the market if they're coming from the metro destinations. And the second one would be for the yellow part, and the third one would be for the blue road, which has the lowest weight. And we went on for this analysis as well for the same hierarchy with the parts, and see which point would had the largest weight of that. If it changed, it would actually change the flow of the people for the part. And yeah, this was for the degree analysis for the measure, and this was the result we conducted for each part and which route had the highest value. And this part would go on with Dalian explaining that.
Okay. I want to explain before introducing our specific location strategy. I want to explain how can we manage our data in our algorithmic thinking. First, there is so many data in our sites, but especially home data has 4,528 because it's a big data, and then it makes my computer is mad. So we need to simplify this data. So first method we think is to simplify by grid. We can manage the grid's width and height, and then find how many points in each grid, so we can simplify the original home data. However, this simplified method has weakness. It is inaccurate. It makes inaccurate data because the grid is not relevant to the original road and city context, city system. So we need to find another method. So we can find node-based simplification method. So we can simplify it by the road. So if any point, when home data, we first we can find where is the closest node to the one home data. So we can make node point, and then we can many home data into the closest node. So we can get a simplified data from 4,528 to 2,044, and it is have some deviation, but it is we think you're really little. So but this method have weaknesses. That is a limitation of number of simplification. We can control the how many points deleted. So, and then our another algorithmic strategy is related to our real market area. So I don't know why my GIF isn't working on there. So like this, we put many human points in the market area, and then we can get a connection and there's boundary. So by using this algorithm, we can get how many people can be our market target site, and also we can regulate it people's password, people's pass. So we can summarize our target site strategy. First, we need to see is the main access street to the market by using NNE network analysis. There is mainly 4 and access street. There is we give a visual supplement to this main access street because they have relatively many traffic than other unrelated load. So another thing we want to say is our target site have gate. The gate have if you want to come in our target site, we need to check our attendancy by using the application. The number of how many people can be in our site by from our human point algorithm. So we can get what is the state of our site. If there are a few people, we can just check the QR automation like there. And if there are so many people, we can make a reservation. And then we make this is I'm sorry for not completing our site image, but as you can see, there is a main access street, and then this street is relatively on the latest street, and this central area is market made by our social distancing algorithm. So people can check in the gate and then enter to our market area, and they can find many market goods. Thank you for our presentation. Thank you for listening our presentation.
Thank you. Can you just keep on sharing your screen and maybe just on the last page? I think that bird's eye perspective is very explanatory. It really helps to understand your scenario. Yeah, maybe my question is that all the routes are connecting those bubbles are now becoming roads, and your market stalls should be outside of your bubbles, isn't it?
Dalian, would you share the screen on last page again?
Okay.
Yeah, but anyways, I think it's an interesting application of the algorithm or these tool sets. But I think you might want to just clarify the relationship between these pods and the void area. Well, what I'm saying is if your market stall cannot be standing here, they should be somewhere here. Like they should occupy this area. If these are routes. I don't know. It's a question.
Yes. In my opinion, I use a big gap in our site like this. There will be filled by the plants and another furniture or sculpture. And then we need to think about more about this small area between our people's network.
Okay, why I'm saying this is because that bubble is 6 feet. You can only occupy one person in that bubble.
Yes.
Then all the other things that should occupy is the rest of the area. So if I would consider these bubbles as for the pedestrian roads.
I guess this is strategy. It's like a market in LA. If there's a maximum people inside of the building, so we need to wait. You know, things like that. I have no idea right now, but I guess.
Yeah, but yesterday, Dahyun, you explained on us like based on this algorithm, you wanna play with, you wanna develop kind of like one or two more kind of alternative kind of ways to by using this method or algorithm, like which is now you just use like 6 feet, which is 2 meters kind of bubble, but you can also delete once you kind of define this network, you just, I don't know, you talk to us like you make kind of larger bubble size and you test it and see the network and you kind of, you know, you try to make kind of the best kind of solutions by using this algorithm. So that's what I understood yesterday. You wanted to kind of develop this idea with 2 or 3 different kind of scenarios. That's what I understand. So I totally understand this is your kind of very fundamental kind of using development of algorithm, but based on this, you also play with like maybe change the dimension, like 4 meters bubble, and after that you can also, I don't know, locate some shops, and also you run the this agent kind of moving exercises again. And I think based on this you can play 2 or 3 different scenarios, and then we can see. But I really appreciate your kind of approach and your kind of research kind of progress, because the NADA kind of tried to evaluate all the kind of this regional scale of city size of analysis and then narrow down. So you guys kind of decide the specific 3 streets, and then Dahyun hand over her work, and then you test with this kind of human scale exercises. So I kind of like suggest that based on these approaches, and maybe you develop one or two more scenarios and talk about which one is better. But I really appreciate your kind of another idea, which you make kind of develop application, and in a real time, you know, people can check like how full it is, this area, and how packed it is, so people can reserve the space. And you know, it's a smarter way, you know, in US, like when we go to supermarket, like people should wait, you know, on the street. But if we can reserve my visiting hours, maybe it's smarter ways to do. So
also,
yeah.
while developing several strategies on top of this algorithm, also you can think about how you create some connection or interaction between the existing building and with your bubble. And also, Soham point out like some small or little big space between the bubbles. So we can, there's I think a space to, developing your imagination and strategy, I guess. To make a more like a realistic scenario, and then how you create your algorithm on top of the realistic things. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, when I saw this diagram for the first time, I assumed that this the small circles means the free marketplace, and then the in between space, like the outside of the bubble, could be some the pathway for the people, like people for the pathway, or some the the movement space for the passengers. So I think it could be some the alternative option for the project if you increase the size of the radius, or something like that.
Yeah, definitely there are multiple agencies you can consider coexisting together. But considering you have only 1 day left, I would suggest to really just refine this specific diagram and just visualize your scenario. Anyhow, I think that will be really effective to kind of communicate with other people how you foresee these particular scenarios using the algorithm in your analysis. But of course, it's definitely up to you.
Also, I quite like your using social distancing bubble as a kind of is important kind of methodology developing those strategies. But I think rather you are explaining about your own set of the testing, you better to explain your proposal with a scenario which everybody talking about in order for us to understand what is the core of your proposal, right? So I think I can get some potential from what you are doing, but I can get what is really good or not, you know. So in a way, you better to prepare for the next final result.
And Dario, maybe once you're done with this generating new network in this area, you just simply do the centrality analysis again, and you will see, like, because each central point of a circle represent the origin, and you can set up the destinations with like maybe 2 or 3 locations, and you just run the centrality analysis, and you will see which location is more kind of centrally occupied within this network. So you can also make decision like you located here is like as a shop, or maybe you just make disperse within the network if you really want to make kind of evenly distributed condition in this site. So I recommend you just do the like centrality analysis once you complete the network design in your site.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I see this more and more, I'm more and more bit like confused with like you want to maybe set very clearly what is your object, your programmatic object, which is market store, and what is the road, which is circulation. Because when I see this, I don't know if it's DeLune, but this like network system, then I don't see this as market stalls, because then it's contradicting each other. Then if you are seeing these red lines as circulation, then the rest should be your occupiable space. Otherwise, we should only see these bubbles as bubble themselves, and there should be another system laying out for circulation. Well, yeah, basically when I see this, there must be some clarity.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, Dayon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before,
I think we are
wanna go next?
missing, yeah, we are missing the other people. So do we go the unit 2 as well?
They don't show up.
There's no one now. Yeah.
Finished.
Oh, there's only 2 units.
Yeah, because the other teams didn't show up today. I don't know why.
I see, I see.
Yeah, I think they are still working, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think there is because
Training.
of the time difference or yeah, something like
Okay, probably. Okay, then shall we move on to the last presentation of today?
Yes.
Yeah. Team B.
Okay. I'm sorry, but please wait a little bit. Sorry, my camera is out because of battery, so I just do the presentation without the camera.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Jung-dae Kim and I'm in Unit 2 B team, and the name of our project is COVID Arcade Promenade. Due to the coronavirus, we reduced our outside activities. However, people still need leisure and social connection for our rich life. So we thought about the idea to deal with this problem. We wanted to make people safely meet each other, especially keeping their distance. In that case, we will need more space for people than before. So we decided to use schoolyard and park, which is not well used due to the recent hazard. Activating such dead space can make additional room to prevent the infection. So we designed the inner network in our target area, which make people not to be close to each other while they are moving. And also, we believe that if we appropriately place such network, we can actually manipulate the trend of pedestrian flow of surrounding area. Simply speaking, by placing such event area in relatively quiet space, we can attract people to visit there, so we can reduce the crowdedness of nearby busy road. We chose to set this event area in school or pocket park. School is one of the most important elements for city zoning, and pocket park is also evenly placed in city. So I think it is proper to use such area in this project. Through the lecture, we learned that using Rhino and Grasshopper with NNA tool can actually visualize people's movement pattern or preference of certain route and connectivity of each place. By using such data, we could evaluate our target area. We could see the trend in various purposes of visiting, including retail and entertainment. And through betweenness analysis, we concluded that the route connecting Mangridan Road and Hangang River Park area is most popular. You can see the red line in here. So we decided to place our project area away from the route because our project is to spread people to wide area. And after selecting our project area, we actually visit our target area and counted the actual pedestrian number. And then we compared it with the estimated value from NNA tool. And the result was the correlation ratio was close to 70%. So it means analyzing tool is quite accurate. And after that, we compared the betweenness to residential area, each with Hangang River and the target area. According to this difference, if we successfully attract people to our target area, there may be more gradual distribution of people in this town. So we checked our target area's nearby road and read the trend of pedestrian flow. The chart shows various patterns of flow by age type, which means this column is teenage and 20s, 30s, and on and on. And the end is total value. By this, we can set the direction of our network and position of our area's entrance and exit. If we properly set the direction, we can reduce the unbalance of flow rate. After that, we create a catalog for various cases. We have 3 types of area, which means triangle and square and rectangle. And for each area, we distinguish the case by the number of adjacent roads, which can be used as the entrance and or exit or both. And then we even specify internal network concept according to the 3 types of area dimension. 10,000 square meter is the lowest, and the 3,000 is highest value. And then we even specify internal network concept. I'm sorry. Through this concept, we create the specific design for our target areas. This is for triangle area case, and this is for rectangular. And then we injected our network to geometry map and analyzed the betweenness and straightness value. We expected the betweenness value of our surrounding area will be gradually distributed and straightness will be decreased. To simply introduce the straightness value means how simple is this network. So if our network is fittingly complex, which means we have many connections and root area, we can afford many people in this area. Yes, of course, there will be problem if we have too much people in one area, but we are gonna deal with that problem later. So the more low straightness comes out, the more successful that our work was. However, our models couldn't affect enough to the whole network, and we concluded that we should make more specific and complex network. So we developed the catalog more specifically. We set the rule of network line first. This is one of the strategies to deal with the overcrowd problem. Previously, I mentioned in here. By the 6-bit rule, we set the width of main line 2 meters if it is used one way, which means if we use this way line, you can't go back to this line. So if it needs both directions, we set the width 2 by 2 for 2 meters, so 4 meter width. And subnetwork is diverging from main network. And then the first means it goes back to diverged network like this. And the second case is dead end. If we go here and we should go back to here, right? So in logical thinking, the only two-way is logically proper in sub-second. And also we create the real size object which provides various service like this, such as gallery, cafe, restaurant, and the library. And after that, we make the combination of objects, which is called module. It reflects the realistic flow of certain service areas, such as if there is a cafe, there should be table or the parasol bench. So we create three types of shape similar to our target area shape that can be used as a core unit of network design. We also make variation of components like 2 cases. You can see. Ignore that. And after that, we actually inject our objects and modules into the target area. And then we analyze the inner network between, which means the outside network is not concluded. So through this, we can detect crowded area in our target area. By manipulating weighting value of this area, such as density of service offer or customers' average using time of service, we can optimize our network. Unfortunately, we have not enough time to deal with that problem. This is also network design and its components of our rectangular shape target area. Model 1 is used 1 and 2 for 2, just like that. And comparing the bed between this value, you can see the more complex design. And after all process, if we inject our final network design to entire geometry data, by this we can evaluate the effectiveness of our project to the citizen flow. And also, I think if we can impose the weight value related to age preference or in our modules, we can make more interesting and meaningful results according to the distribution patterns of the actual population. And after these are all our process, yes, my presentation is over.
Can you keep on sharing your screen? Maybe go to the best page that you like. Maybe the last page. Is this your best page?
This page and where we actually use the components in the real network. Yes, this page maybe.
Okay, so you are proposing an elementary school plan, yeah?
Yes, especially for the playground, not for the school building.
Cool. Well, if I may start, I really like your methodology relating the network design to the plot shape. I think that is really smart take on. as you are picking, I like your diagram that you just stopped by earlier this page. That is really well done. Maybe not so much this page though, although there's a login page here. Yeah. Yeah, let's wait for.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
great. So like here, I mean, in general, I really like this project, your method, and the way you are talking is really similar to NJ. I don't know, like I thought I'm listening to NJ's tutorial, but which means you are like learning really like, you are very focusing. Yeah, you really explained very well. What I really don't like is about how this shape is not relating to the natural shape of what's given. And I thought if you have triangle, like in the diagram, you have triangle, you have circle or whatever, and it should like really adaptable. Like you can adapt to different shape of triangles. Yeah. And the beauty of this parametric kind of approach. So you can actually, because you divided it like that, that's your design decision. And then you can decide, yeah, I'm going to have a triangle like this here, and then a square like that. And then maybe here you might want to have like triangle like that. And you know, you can like, it gives you so much more potential than just having that like very specific 3 shape. Yeah, so if you can just, even if it's not really working perfectly like that yet, but if you can kind of illustrate that with 1 or 2 of diagram of this before after, I think that would be very clear. And can you go to your final proposal, maybe in a larger, like, yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe this one. This looks quite different, but I like it. I don't know what's happening here, but I want to see different scenarios of your network happening, even if it's in one big plot. There must be a lot of different potentials and like network potential. And maybe if you could have like compared few scenarios as few options and see which one is performing maybe the best. I think that could be also a very interesting exercise. But what I really like about this project is that you are really just really actively using this as your design tool, a modeling tool. And a little bit, probably you are a bit free from the existing urban condition because you are dealing with a very free empty plot.
Yes.
And you can just assemble. So I think you found a very exciting topic that you freed yourself to deal with something more that you can more actively engage and using this tool as a design tool. And I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Did you do site survey?
Yes, our team also went to site survey.
Right. So yeah, from the site survey, so I don't get any relation between the site survey and your proposal, the site itself.
Pardon, it is not clearly listening.
Oh, sorry. So did you consider site survey things into your proposal as well, right?
Yes. Maybe this part is the on-site survey, and what I want to use site survey data is we want to test our tool, how much this tool is accurate, and through the on-site data we can show that.
Right. Okay.
So after this, we can believe our tools result, and yes, analyzing the between.
Yeah, also you use the betweenness results, the betweenness analysis results already embedded the site context, right? And based on this result, you decide which location will be the destination and which
Yes, that's right.
location will be the entrance of your
This
site,
part is,
right?
yes.
So this already embedded the site context, but to define the entrance and exit. So yeah, I think it's good to you explain, include this, the subject in your presentation. Yeah, it could be good. But in general, I really appreciate all your progress because you really we understand you struggle a lot because to develop the kind of network design in a kind of a pocket park and potentially semi-open public space in school. So it's a kind of first trial and very kind of new approach while you are design architecture design or urban design. So because normally we just thinking about the building itself, right? The mass or density, but instead of that, we just begin to think about network first, and then you located the buildings after. So actually, it's a kind of like really opposite approaches, you know. So, but it's still very good exercise, hopefully. And yeah, what I suggest is that maybe later you just to zoom in, for example, like this page, and you just zoom in some kind of pick interesting kind of diagrams and they explain about what is the meaning of the colors. So for your site, you know, like you did the before and after analysis, right? But like you have to explain what is the meaning of the color of the research result, right? Yeah, you talk to us like, okay, here is more dense areas than the others, but like more specifically, if you can explain for each research, let's say diagram, maybe could be helpful to understand how networks is working in your proposal and or like even surroundings of your proposals. So yeah, but in general, I really appreciate your work and progress.
Yeah, I really like your way of doing, like what Chang says, your opposite thing is quite interesting. To you are designing empty space by using network things, which is interesting. And also I think, yeah, you better to explain later on, you know, about what happening in your proposal by using networking system terms itself. It's gonna be really interesting to understand and then to make sure what you achieve from your diagram, because you are not showing any movie or any kind of real situation. Not it's difficult, but you know, so you better to explaining or better to make us understand what kind of happening in the site by using those networking analysis. That could be possible to do, I think.
Yeah, maybe I take on that Jay's comment. Maybe your final output can be a very storytelling plan. I don't know, like maybe you have a lot of programs happening here and there, but it's a really detailed plan, like just 2D drawings of this area with the cities and everything, but it's just a suggestion. And when I see this page on your page 12, I think I would also really appreciate if the network is extended to the city, so surrounding network. So you don't just analyze your own plot, but you also should continue to the surrounding network.
Yes.
And if, for example, if you, you know, normally these kind of school buildings are closed with a fence or wall.
Yes, that's right.
but maybe this gives you an opportunity that you can actually open this up to the city, but still you remain certain privacy, and you can kind of analyze, even if this is open, I can give privacy here and there, for example. I think this can be really used actively and bring some kind of proposals like that.
Okay. And but one more just curious thing for me is later on, maybe you want to think about it, maybe after workshop, I think, and you set up different geometry as a kind of plan, like a rectangle and triangle, etc. I don't know. I'm not sure how, but you analysis well about the different geometry works as a different network system, but I don't. But they could be more sophisticated some way of maybe transform some kind of geometry or plan. I think somehow some all networking analysis work as almost same working. I think as a point of view as just looking at. So maybe I think some different geometry will act differently more. I think I'm not sure, but I'd better think about it.
Yeah, that's right. So I wanted to try many types of network in same area, but there was so much lack of time. So it was, yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I really appreciate. Thank you.
So we are done, right, today?
Yeah.
Yeah, was that the last? Donghyun, do we have any more? Or
No.
done? Okay. Cool.
I don't know why they are
Yeah,
not coming.
we are on time and missing
Yes.
2 groups. Okay, we should speed up for the final, but yeah, everybody, great job, and thank you for all the really meaningful conversation and discussion. One thing I will want to discuss with everybody is that for the final, we might want to swap the group. So because Unit 1 and Unit 4 is doing similar exercise with machine learning, with image training. And as we were already meeting today, we had an idea of what they're doing. And Unit 2 and 3 maybe also have something kind of common, dealing with social agency. So like people looking at crowds and people as some kind of agencies. Yeah. So I think it will be a really good conversation, but we will have very difficult dealing with time zone kind of things. So I will keep on doing survey with tutors on our group chat, and we will make decision in like very soon. Yeah, but hope everybody understand if there is a slight change of the schedule, this is only because we want to have a more meaningful and interesting conversation by swapping the group. Because I think today rehearsal, including the rehearsal this morning, we also saw everybody's work, and it was a great progress already. So if you have different comments from other tutors, it's also beneficial for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be really interesting, because like what Sumi said, actually it's gonna be really interesting argument or conversation later on if we are swapped. Yeah.
And so please, we will communicate with all the unit tutors, but if you opposed to this idea of changing the schedule, please communicate with your tutor, unit master, and like they will tell us your opinion, and we will kind of find the best solution for everybody. Yeah, but sorry if we have to change the schedule for final, but it's only we are doing it for good. Okay.
Hey, Somi?
Yeah.
So does that mean if we go with the other what time is the other like presentation if we switch them? I was just
that we will have to change it, but Unit 4 will do it with Unit 1. Unit 1 is working with Mathematica, and they are working similarly with machine learning training with images. I think it's good to have some interesting conversation between these two units.
so that's at 3 a.m. on Friday.
It will be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
will let you know.
We
Yeah.
will do some survey, and if your tutor contact you, basically Dongyun will contact you to see if these few slots are working for you or not, and you can say, no, I definitely hate this time, or I can maybe work on it.
Okay. Yeah,
we
because
can probably set a few options, and then we can probably check with all the students first before we confirm the final credit time. Yeah. So
yeah.
you'll
Worst case, we will just go for the original schedule. But yeah, if we will appreciate everybody's cooperation.
Okay.
Yeah, it will difficult for definitely it will be difficult for some people because of the difficult time zone, but that's not avoidable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
today.
you very much for everybody.
Thank you for the work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the tutors coming. Thank you for all the students sharing your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.